Good afternoon. All right, so are you girls in Winslow already not speaking to me now because I screwed up the quiz?
No, it's okay. We were just confused a little bit.
I have no idea what happened on that because it's just bizarre. I'm trying to do this deal where it randomly selects the questions for the quiz. And I'm not sure why, but it looked like when I went in and investigated after, I started with when I got Skylar's email, and I go through there, and somehow instead of selecting from the pool of questions I created for 7-1, it actually pulled from the entire course. So the questions you saw actually are legit questions from like chapter 11 and chapter 9 and I mean, stuff we're not even going to cover for a long time and later in the semester. So I don't know how it did that, but I do know it's doing some weird stuff with the default is what it's called. And so but I checked with my other classes all worked out just fine. So I'm not sure what happened here, but what I'm gonna do, so 7.1, I'm gonna just throw that away. Okay, that's not gonna count. All right, we'll chalk that up to I don't know. So anyway, so don't sweat that and unless you got a 5. Did anybody get a 5 on 7.1? No? Okay. All right, so it's really dark in St. John's, so I'm not who's there? David and Joey, are you guys both there?
Yeah, we're both here.
Okay. All right, so Aiden told me he was going to be gone, and then the Mogyeon girls are gone.
Mr. Strong?
Yeah.
So, for the quizzes now, did you change it so that will it be the average over 2 attempts or is it the highest?
It'll be the highest.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. So hopefully 7. So were you able to do your second attempt on 7.2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully anyway you'll see that it'll be the highest attempt. So you guys so David and Joey, so to be clear, there was a screw up on 7.1. So it was taking questions not from the questions that I had selected, and I don't know why. So I'll throw that quiz out, and maybe we'll do a redo of that one. And then, but 7.2, is there any problems with 7.2?
Yeah, I just need to take my second attempt after class today.
Okay, and then, so I need to open that for you then. Right? Okay. So, okay. 7.2 for David after class. Okay. All right, I'll do it. And so again, whatever score you got on the first one, then you can't lose that. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain on your second attempt. Okay. Let's see. What else was I going to say about that? So on Monday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Monday be a Moodle day. And so probably one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to have you redo 7.1 quiz. And it's going to be during class time. Because I know, so during class time, we're not going to have a regular broadcast. And so I'll have you take 7.1 and who knows, maybe 7.3 or something like that. So we'll do that on Monday. Okay? So I'll talk more about that tomorrow as well. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, because I want to have some time for you to redo 7.1, but I kind of feel like I owe you some time because you already made arrangements to come in and take that. And anyway, okay. All right. So any questions, comments, concerns before we get started today? All right. Well, I have to tell you, I'm glad that every one of you is here today, because I do have this rule, and I probably told you this last semester, and I kind of hate to break it, but that I have to have at least half my students. So if one more of you hadn't been here today, then I probably would have done something else. So anyway, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So I'd done a little intro in the 7.4, but we really haven't got to the notes yet. So that's kind of where we're starting now. So let's hope the board works this time. So we're going to start off with separable differential equations. All right, so actually before or while you're copying that down, let me just tell you a little bit about differential equations in general. There's a whole class on this. Now, we're going to do a little bit in like half of this section is differential equations, a little intro to it. And then in chapter 9, we do sort of the equivalent of like the first chapter in differential equations. And so depending on your major, some students after this class will take differential equations. Other students will take Calc 3. And sometimes you're given a choice, okay? So I know my son, when he went off to college, they told him to take both, that he needed to take both because he was going to be an electrical engineer. And I think that's the absolute worst thing you can do, is to try to take both in one semester. It's just too much, okay? So just a little counseling advice, don't take both. You can take Calc 3. I'm actually going to offer Calc 3 over the summer, and I would love to offer differential equations if we had enough students that needed it here at MPC. It's on the books, but we just haven't offered it in years. But just know that if you're continuing on, and a lot of you are, this might be what would be next. So anyway, okay, so a separable differential equation. So an equation is separable if the function can be expressed as a product of a function of x and a function of y. So it's kind of like, instead of just f of x, it's f of x and y. So you have x's in it and y's in it. So that's kind of where we're going to start. All right, so for this example, let's say we have dy dx. So the derivative of our function, see, notice it has x's in it and y's in it. Okay? So this is what's called a differential equation. So this is the derivative, and what we're going to try to do is come up with the original equation. Okay? All right, so the technique that we're going to learn is to separate. And so the idea is that we're going to get all the x's on one side and all the y's on the other. So to get the dx over here, I'm just multiplying both sides by dx. And then this part in here in parentheses that has a y in it, I'm going to divide both sides by that. Okay? So if I can do that, and you can't always do that, but if you can do that, then this is called a separable differential equation. Okay? Now, if when you try to do it, it turns out it's not separable, then you just say it's not separable and just stop. Because we'll have to deal with those in chapter 9. But for right now, what we're going to do is just say, okay, can we get all the y's on one side, all the x's on the other? All right, now, so once you do that, then what you do is next is you integrate both sides. because you take the antiderivative. And so you say, okay, well, what's the integral of dy over 1 plus y? Can anyone tell me what that integral is? The integral of dy over 1 plus y. So it's of the form, the integral of du over u. Anybody remember that one? What is it?
I have a dentist appointment that I completely forgot about till right now.
Oh, okay.
So I have to go.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So this is the natural log when you have du over u. So this is the natural log of the absolute value of 1 plus y. And then over here we have the integral of e to the x. dx is just e to the x. Now, because you have to put a plus c on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which one. So I just put it on the right. Okay? Now, that's it. That's it. You stop right there. So we don't have to solve it for y. This is what we call an implicit equation where the relationship between x and y are implied. Okay? And so we can just stop right there. All right? So, see if you can do practice 1. So, see if it's possible to separate those, the x and y first. All right, so, Skylar, are you able to separate this one? Are you able to get the x's on one side and the y's on the other?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do to do that?
I multiplied by dx, and then I added 3/2 y to the other side.
Okay. See, here's the problem though, is that, okay, when you multiply both sides by dx, then the negative 3/2 y is going to have a dx with it too. Okay. So you can't actually separate this because when you multiply each side by dx, now this term has an x in it. And so if you try to subtract it now, then you'll have an x over here on the left. So this is one that's not separable. You can't, if you try to subtract first, or let's say you added 3/2 y over here to the left, well then when you multiply everything by dx, then you'll still have a dx with that 3/2 y. And so this is what's messing you up right here. This term right here. Because it has an x and a y. We can't divide by y. You can't divide by dx. You can't subtract it over. So this is not separable. So if you run into any of these when you're doing the practice problems or whatever, then you just stop. Okay. Now, speaking of which, okay, on the Student Success Organizer, on the homework, so if you do some of the practice problems, there's a couple of them that you can, that I don't want you to do. number 5 or 17? Because it's actually a mistake in the book where, see, they reordered some of the equation or some of the sections in chapter 7. And so to do number 5 and number 7, you actually have to know how to do the stuff from 7.6. And so it's an error in the book. So don't even try 5 and 17, or it'll just be confusing. Okay, well, let's go back. Okay, so to separate the variables, what you do is you rewrite you might want to rewrite it in some way, distribute, whatever. Then you actually separate the dy dx and do what you can to get the x's on one side, the y's on the other. And then the last step is to integrate both sides. Okay? So let's go through another example. All right, so here we've got both x's and y's on both sides. Okay, so again, because it's dy over dx, then to get rid of the dx, you're going to multiply everything by dx. And so then that lets you know, hey, I want the x's on the right and the y's on the left. All right, so to get rid of the x's here, we're going to divide each side by x plus 1. So those go away. And then we'll have the x plus 1 on the bottom. Then we're going to divide each side by y squared plus 1. And so then we get that. All right? So now that we've separated, then we're going to integrate both sides. So we have the integral of y over y squared plus 1 and the integral of x over x plus 1. Okay? So I'm gonna stop there in this example because basically you just integrate, and there's some integration techniques that we're gonna brush up on later, but I don't want to get bogged down in it quite yet. Okay? So go ahead and try practice 2. So the skill that I'm wanting you to develop here is to separate the variables, and then we'll work on the integration. So try practice 2. All right, so Joey, were you able to separate this one?
Yes, but I don't know if I did it right.
Okay, so tell me what you got when you separate it.
So I got dx over 5x squared is equal to e to the negative y over dy.
Okay, so when you multiply each side by dx, you just get 5x squared dx. There's no fraction on that one. Okay, and then the y's, you divide each side by e to the negative y. Now, when you use the elevator rule on that, this will come up because whenever you have a negative exponent, you can change floors and bring it up. So that's going to be e to the y dy. I'm going to rewrite that. So e to the y dy equals 5x squared dx. Okay? All right, so any questions so far? All right, now we're going to integrate both sides. So we integrate, so the integral of e to the y dy equals the integral of 5x squared dx. Okay, so now see if you can finish that off. All right, so Chloe, what's the integral of e to the y dy?
Do you not just leave it? Or no?
Well, we're going to just integrate it and then leave it. So we do want to do the integral of each one. So the integral of e to the y dy is just e to the y.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then the integral of the other one is just 5x squared.
No, because see, on this one we're going to use the anti-power rule. Okay. So remember with the anti-power rule with integrals, because this is a polynomial function. Okay. So you add 1 to the exponent and then divide by that new exponent. So you bring the 5 down, and then it's going to be x to 1 higher power. So x to the third divided by 3, and then we do the plus c. And that's how we're going to leave it. Okay? All right, any questions on that? So I think this illustrates what's tough about Calc 2. Is in Calc 2, not only do you have to remember how to do the new integrals from this chapter, but you have to remember all the integrals from Calc 1, how to do like the power rule in reverse and so on. Okay? All right. So what I would want you to do is you know what? I think we're going to quit early today because we've dropped below half of our class. And so we'll pick it up with, and then this is kind of a transition place with the population growth. It goes with the exponential change. But kind of review these separable because we're not doing those tomorrow. So if you need to do some practice, and then also I'm gonna redo the 7-1 quiz, and well, like I said, I'll have that available for you Monday during class time. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments? All right. Well, thanks, you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.